And we're live. Good morning, good afternoon, good day to anyone watching on LinkedIn Live. I'm Marion Spears Carr, and this is the Healthcare Thought Leadership LinkedIn Live show. My now twice a month show. I used to do it every week, but now I've kind of cut it back down to a couple times a week. I am the founder and managing partner of a new executive search and leadership solutions firm called Inflow Executives. And I started this show because I wanted to share the amazing thought leaders within my network, with my network and beyond. Today's topic is one that I think all of you are probably facing throughout the healthcare industry. Is the challenge of continuous competent staffing in healthcare. And my guest today, and I'm so excited to have my guest. His name's Ainsley Coley. He's the unit director for gastroenterology and pulmonology at Emory Healthcare. Ainsley, you and I connected on LinkedIn and through ACHE of Georgia. And I was fascinated with your story and your leadership style and this topic. And you are an avid poster on LinkedIn. You constantly are sharing information about what you're doing as a leader at Emory. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience. And if you're watching live, please post in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. We want to know you're there. If you have questions for Ainsley as we move forward through the conversation, I'd love to have it. Ainsley, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marion, and thank you for that brief introduction and also the opportunity to come on your show to have this discussion. And thanks to everyone on the LinkedIn Live community for tuning in today. So as you already know, my name, Ainsley Coley. I've been a registered nurse for just over 16 years. I've been lucky enough to work in 3 countries with and having 3 wonderful employers. And I've spent most of my time in the perioperative space, also critical care and progressive leadership. And I've also shared some interest in quality patient safety, policy development. I'm an alumnus of the University of the West Indies, where I studied nursing at the undergrad level. And at the graduate level, I studied occupational health and safety. And I recent graduate from University of Alabama, where I studied under nursing, but at a graduate level for healthcare systems administration, which is, a ball field that they don't teach at the undergrad level. And I also did a few days short of 7 years in the military back in Jamaica. So I've been in the space of leadership and management, and something that has always been a problem or a challenge is having continuous competent staffing in healthcare. It's actually everywhere, but healthcare is where my life is now, and that's what I speak about on a daily basis.
Yeah, you and I got into a conversation around this topic because I had posted a request on LinkedIn from my followers around what were the biggest challenges facing healthcare. I'm writing an article for a magazine that's hopefully going to be published in December, and I was really crowdsourcing information. I wanted my connections to share in their thoughts, and you shared a great deal of information around this idea around how do we develop competent staff, how do we connect with them, how do we keep them engaged in what they do, and how does that give us a competitive advantage? And Ainsley, you're at an amazing organization with Emory, and you do have this incredible background. I love the fact that you had the military background as well. But talk to me and share with the audience. And by the way, welcome Dr. Aston, who's checked in from Macon, Georgia. Laverne has checked in from Hampton, Georgia. If you're watching live, we want to please let us know where you're watching from. It's always good to know who's in the audience. But Ainsley, talk about some of the things that you do as a leader at Emory or in your career to try to get your team engaged, get them involved, and raise their competency level up to where it needs to be competitive in the marketplace.
So there's a few things that can be done. Some can be done at the organizational level and at the management director level or unit level. And so there are some checks and balances that the organization will put in place. And as a leader, for example, like during this time of the year for me, we have to look on the make sure that the staff is comfortable. And be comfortable meaning they have to ensure that they do their annual competencies. So they are competent, comfortable. So they're covered based on ethics, and they're also covered from a legal standpoint to go out and do their jobs. Mm-hmm. So it's my job is to ensure that they have the time to meet these competencies so that they can focus on what they have to do. Also, another thing that I do is I lead or arrange collaborative simulation for different exercises. It could be for emergency codes, it could be for a fire drill, it could be a what-if situation where patients are concerned. And also, I'm a big promoter of team collaboration. I love the phrase, I don't think I coined the phrase, but I love the term internal customer service. And if we have good internal customer service with the people who we live with at work and our co-workers or internal customers, that would help us as to build and make our interdisciplinary team better. It will also ensure that we discuss cases, we share knowledge, and we collaborate with everyone in the organization to make sure that the team members are comfortable. And one of the other thing that I do, I make sure that I look at it as an individual support. So each team member, when we speak, I make notes, and so I can go back and make sure I ensure that the goals and the objectives and the discussions that we have are met. And sometimes, team members will say to me, I didn't know that you remembered this conversation. And even when I don't take notes, I will still remember the conversation. I remember many years ago, back in the military, one of my soldiers got in an accident, or I should say an incident rather. And I went to the hospital, and I went with a doctor at the time, a military doctor. And after we left, I wrote a summary of basically what took place, the conversation with the soldier, and the doctor, who's now my friend, called me and said, how did you remember all of that? And I said to him, because I wasn't thinking of anything else. I was in the moment, listening to the needs of my team members and deliver.
What a great story. And in talking about being fully engaged and in active listening, Samana Jetty's checking in from Alberta, Canada. Samana is the head of a company called Jetty Wellness that works with healthcare organizations and organizations of all types in creating really great wellness opportunities for their team. And she's really focused on burnout and engagement. And she's made a really good comment here. When I bring her up on the screen, she goes, love that as a leader, you are actively listening and taking notes. How to create positive team collaborations when teams are remote or hybrid. How do you do that? That's a great question. How do you create those positive team collaborations when they might be remote at times? I know you're in an inpatient environment, but you also have some times where your people are working remote. That is a big challenge. How do you go about that, Ainsley?
So the first thing I go about that is to ensure that there's open, transparent communication and an open line of communication. So for example, if I will be unavailable for any period of time, that is made clear. And also the first thing I do, let's say, for example, I know that we start at 5:30 in the morning. And the first thing I do, I will call at 5:31 to say, is everything okay? And I'll check in maybe a few hours after, and also at the end of the day. So my team members and staff can know that I am accessible. And if once it's a hybrid situation or any situation, people wants to know that you're accessible. And just to add, I have an open door policy. And a team member said to me recently, why are you always here? And I said, where else am I going to be? They said, you're my team, you're my unit. And so the main thing, especially with a hybrid situation, leaders must make themselves accessible so that the team members can be comfortable to know that if they make a call, the person is going to pick up.
I love that. I want to go back to something else you said earlier. I've never heard any healthcare leader or any leader talk about having a team that felt comfortable. I love that terminology. And it ties back to my training in flow theory. For those of you who don't know me, flow theory of psychology is one of the key drivers of the work that I do in a lot of different ways. But flow theory is this idea of being fully engaged in your work and having a command of the skills and capabilities you need in order to meet the challenge. And one of the things about flow is if you don't have the skills or the capabilities to meet the challenge, you are often in a state of anxiety or a state of conflict. And I love the fact that you use the word comfortable with your team in terms of developing their skills so that they are comfortable with their skills, that they are competent in their skills, and they feel confidence in their skills. Ainsley, talk a little bit more about how important that is, because again, I never heard that particular word used, but I love how that connects to being people, having staff that are not burned out because they are competent, they are comfortable with their set of skills that they own. Talk a little bit more about that, because I think that's really an important point.
So comfort goes a very long way, and it can be subjective and also left to interpretation. So my aim is to be a servant leader. And to be a servant leader, I have to be able to be comfortable in things that I explain. So, for example, I do make some unorthodox decisions, and I don't play in the box. I play at the side of the box, at the top, and I play all around the box for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I always, even if I cannot give it at the same time, I've built a relationship so my staff know that if Ainsley is doing this, it must be a good reason. And if it's a bad reason, he's going to come back and say, guys, I did this, didn't work. I'm sorry. We have to try something else. So one of the things I do, I always make sure that there's a rationale. And notice I didn't say a good rationale, but there's a rationale for things that I do. It's always transparent. And even if they're not liking to it, they know that they're comfortable enough to come and have a conversation about it. And I am also comfortable enough to explain why I'm doing it this way. And even some of my unpopular decisions are accepted because it's understood. And the staff themselves, they will go along with it to make sure that it either works well, or cannot work any at all. And so the comfort level also, when my team come to work, when they come to work, they are comfortable to know that all the administrative stuff they are taken care of. They don't need to be worrying about, are we going to have the supplies? Are we going to be competent to carry out these duties? Because I make sure that they have all the tools, including the knowledge to do their work.
I think that's absolutely on point, and great conversation going on in the chat. Want to give a shout out to another viewer, Karana Khan Coley is checking in from Smyrna, Georgia. Glad to have you. I'm assuming there might be some connection there, Ainsley.
Yeah, I think I live in Smyrna, so maybe.
Yeah, there may be a connection. So we're glad that she's checking in.
That's my number one cheerleader. She's always cheering me on.
We're glad to have her checking on you and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And Samana has a really good question in relation to that, and maybe Karana could speak to it. Jamana said that I love the regular check-ins. Thanks, Ainsley. That's a really great point. But one of the things you talked about was always being there. So you're always on them. How do you take care of yourself as leaders? It's really important for us. If we're going to have a competent staff, if we're going to develop engagement with our team, we also have to take care of ourselves. And so what are some things? I'm going to go that direction now. Samana, what a great question.
Well, that's actually a great question. Thank you for that question. And it's my answer is going to be hilarious. So I'm the master of doing nothing. And I'm not watching the chat, but if Corona wants to type this, whenever I'm not doing anything, my mind is not engaged. So I'm master at doing nothing. So if I'm not working, I shut down. My brain doesn't work. I don't ponder on things. I don't think. I don't wonder. But once I'm engaged, for example, with our conversation, I was saying to myself, because remember we spoke and I sent you a presentation.
Yeah, you did.
You're like, yep. This is not what we're gonna do.
That's not what we're gonna do. No, it was a great presentation, by the way, for all you in the audience. But I wanted to have this conversation. Yes.
And I was like, okay, I guess I don't know what we're gonna talk about, but once we start speaking, I'm engaged and I can deliver. So I'm a master at doing nothing. And on Sundays, I usually don't do anything unless it's an emergency. I usually go to the sauna maybe 2 or 3 times a week just to decompress.
Yep.
And I play tennis with Corona whenever she can go as early as I want to go. And also massages and just relaxing and learn to take time for yourselves. And I also have other extracurricular activities that I do, like my fraternal organization. And I am known to fall asleep in those meetings, not because I'm tired, but because I'm so comfortable and relaxed in those environments. So I take care of myself by just whenever I'm plugged in at work, I'm plugged in. Yep. And whenever I'm not at work, I'm not at work.
I think that's a great example in that we need to set for our team too. We need to give them permission to unplug as well. I mean, I think one of the things that I talk about with being in a flow experience, in order for us to be in flow in our work, in the things that we do, in the challenges we face, we also have to take time to restore and relax and to rejuvenate and really really recharge. I mean, all those R's are there. Corona made a comment. I love this, and I know we're getting off subject, but I love it. He has truly achieved the highest level of being able to turn off his brain. LOL. I'm very envious of that. You and I have a lot in common, Ainsley, because that is a gift that I have now. As I've shared with you before, I'm a multiple brain injury survivor. So my brain is always trying to compensate for all the things that are going on in my head because it's all kind of wired wrong. But I've learned over time to really be able to disconnect and to unplug my brain a little bit and restore. Tell me a little bit about, as a leader, how you encourage restoration within your team, because we've talked about keeping them comfortable, keeping their skills developed. I mean, our topic is this challenge of keeping staff competent and engaged. But what are some things that you do as a leader to encourage them to get some restoration in their own right?
So I have to give kudos to my former director. I don't think she's on, but if she's on, she knows herself. But I met her maybe 3 years ago, and she's always singing the song Work-Life Balance.
Yeah.
And I have to say that being Jamaican and working in Jamaica, then Cayman Islands, I didn't understand or have the concept of work-life balance. You work and then you don't work.
Yeah.
And I came to this organization which they promote work-life balance, and my former director really did promote work-life balance. And so over the past 3 years or so, I've learned to interpret that and now give it to my team. So with the work-life balance, I have encouraged my current team to create a recruitment and retention committee.
Okay.
And part of that recruitment and retention is also allowing team members to balance their lives. So for example, we went bowling a few weeks ago at a location, and sometime in October around Halloween, we'll be going to another location to do an escape room and just relax. So work-life balance, when there's no work and somebody say, hey, I'm willing to go home early, they get to go home early. Also, we use flexible scheduling to ensure that team members can schedule themselves. And unless it's an emergency, we usually don't switch their schedule. So that will promote, they can decide when they work and how much they will work. Also, we use shift swapping,
Okay.
which allows them to make the decision without getting leadership involved once the unit is staffed properly. And things like that help to build collaboration and team spirit, and they tend to like it.
I love that idea about the flexible staffing piece, being able to swap schedules where they have the ability to do that as long as they find someone else. That what a great format that you have there. And I love the fact that you're engaging and collaborating on the recruitment and retention group so that they can be involved in stuff other than always on with the patient. Talk a little bit about how you support as a leader your staff when it comes to their competencies and with their patient engagement environment, being in the patient engagement environment. What are some things you do as a leader to help them improve in that capacity, dealing with the patient, and all the different outcomes that you're driving? Because you're in big departments that are really, let's face it, the acuity of patients is going way up.
Yeah.
If they're inpatient now, they're sick. What are some things that you do to support your staff from that perspective?
So I use a two-pronged approach, and sometimes it's combined, but I look at the staff and the patient. And I usually do rounds a couple of times a day. I usually do rounds because where my office is, I have to pass the waiting area where the patients are. And sometimes I will just pass on a random conversations. They don't know who I am, but I'm having conversations, which is part of the assessment. And also I have what we call the I rounds, which I go around and I speak with the staff, I speak with the patients, I speak with their relatives. And so we also have a feedback form for the patients where they will document how their journey was since the time they saw the provider up until they're in the recovery room space and about to be discharged. And so I take those ideas, comments, and suggestions and implement change within the department. I also tend to do a lot of Gemba walks several times a day. Also process improvement, which because in my department there are three areas. I have pre, post, and intra procedures. So I'm doing 3 different things in one department, and so I do Gemba to make sure that all the areas are integrated well, and the team members are doing their best to maintain efficiency within all the areas.
Can you explain what it means, Gemba? What does that mean? So, for those of us who don't work in healthcare every day.
Well, thank you for that. Gemba is it's a walk with purpose, and not with speed, but to walk in your environment of work to make sure how can I improve the processes. So even though it's a walk, you may end up spending 4 hours in one area. Or you may follow a patient from the time they come to the unit in the pre-procedure, you follow that patient to the room, and you follow that patient to the recovery. And then actually, sometimes as part of my Gemba walk, I will actually transfer the patient downstairs to the lobby in the wheelchair. And Gemba can also mean I'm following a particular nurse for the day, or I'm following a particular area within the department. So Gemba is just an observation to make sure that you observe what's happening. And you can't really see my screen, but behind here is my PDSA cycle. To whatever I get from my Gemba, I put it in my PDSA and, plan, do, study, act, or adjust to make sure that we are efficient in all the areas.
I've never heard that term, and even though I've been in the business for a long time. So thank you. And I need to be more, I need to learn how to do that. I need to learn how to be more even though I don't have a staff like that, I don't have a healthcare staff. And by the way, for those of you who are watching this show for the first time, this is called the Healthcare Thought Leadership LinkedIn Live Show. My name is Marion Spears Carr, and I'm the managing partner and founder of a new executive search and leadership solutions and leadership training company called Inflow Executives. I'm based in Georgia, in the mountains of Georgia. I met Ainsley through the Georgia Association of Healthcare Executives, which I'm very involved with, both on the Georgia chapter and the national chapter. If y'all can't recognize my accent, it is from North Carolina, and I'm very, very much a North Carolinian living in the mountains up in the Appalachian region, which is where I'm from. Ainsley, one other question I have for you is, tell me a little bit about how you coming to Atlanta from Jamaica, from your military experience. How's your point of reference being different, again, culturally different? How's that shaped how you work with your staff and how you look at things in terms of developing them, growing them, and supporting them? I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about kind of your influences before you came to Atlanta and how that kind of frames some of your leadership style.
Well, that's a beautiful question. And before I answer that, I want to, as we would say in Jamaica, big up Othniel Blackwood, which is a friend of mine. I remember the first day we met. He was going to sea with his troops, and I was coming from sea with my sailors. And we spoke briefly. We have been friends ever since. And he's the one that has encouraged me to get into showcase my writing, because we have always been writers, and we are in private groups. Yeah. And we write and share information. Now, back in my military days, a friend of mine said to me, always teach somebody something that you know. And, the reason was why. And he said, so you can always have more free time. So,
I love that idea. So, yeah.
But the good side of teaching somebody what you know is so that you can empower your team members to be involved in the organization, and also to promote shared governance. And also, coming from two different backgrounds, I know things can get worse. So, for example, in 2010, when Haiti had their earthquake, I was involved in some way or another by helping out Haiti's situation. And there were other challenging times being in the military in Jamaica around that time. Mm-hmm. And regardless of what's happening in our hospital setting, I'm from a school of thought that this can get worse. So with that comfort and learning to listen, because if you don't listen and understand what your team members are saying, you won't be able to help, you won't be able to produce, you won't be able to find solutions. So with having a rough younger years, not necessarily personally, but career-wise, mm-hmm. with being on a speedboat, leaving from one side of Jamaica, going to the other to do, certain patrols, whatever is happening in healthcare, it can be worse. And so with that mindset, it's easy for me to do the job. It may be challenging, but it's easy. I know that if we do it well, we only have to do it once. And then tomorrow we come and do the same thing over again. And those are some of the things I try to instill in my staff. Like, it's challenging today. It may be challenging tomorrow, but it's not going to be forever. And we'll take lessons from all these challenges and make it better for the next time.
What a great philosophy. And I think he said, don't tell anybody you've seen me, but he's in your corner and he's saying big up. He's
an excellent friend. He's a good thought leader as well. He's currently, I don't know if he wants me to say this, but he's on here, but he's currently at Cambridge doing his PhD in education.
Oh, man.
And concept design. So, he's a good guy.
Well, we may have to get him on the show. Gina Tipton is checking in. Gina is a CEO of a rehab hospital in Atlanta and also very involved with ACHE. She's my partner. We're the co-leaders of the programs committee for the Georgia chapter. And she goes, wow, you take your Gimbal walk into and apply it right away to your PDSA. Great practice. Need to be more like you when she grows up.
Well,
So,
Gina is a superstar. So I had a chat with her recently, and she's doing great things, and she's an example to follow.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we're actually, believe it or not, we're out of time. But Ainsley, thank you so much for being on the show. Really glad that you're in my circle. Loved having you. We need to bring you back and have some more conversations around your journey as a leader and what you do with your team. For those of you, again, if you're watching our show for the first time, either live or if you watch the recording will be on LinkedIn and on YouTube where you can watch it again. This is the Healthcare Thought Leadership LinkedIn Live show with Marion Spears Carr. That's me. I'm the managing partner and founder of a company called Inflow Executives based here in Georgia and in Nashville. We work with healthcare organizations all across the country, crafting leadership structures for them from a recruiting perspective, but also leadership development perspective. Ainsley, thank you so much. Thanks for being on the show today, and glad to connect. Any last thoughts for the audience before we close out?
Well, first of all, I must say, well, you're welcome, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to have this conversation. So with so many people and in such a space, and thanks everybody for tuning in the LinkedIn world. And I know Marion is gonna post this, so please share it. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on my LinkedIn. And let's have a conversation. It would be good to talk with other people from all over. Hi, Nefia, I see you. That's my star, one of my star managers. That she's in charge of SPD.
Right here.
Yes, that's her.
All right.
She keeps all my scopes and cameras clean. She and her team. So, big kudos for her on that. But thanks to everyone that showed up today and have a listen and for the questions. And I look forward to be here again and having conversations.
Yeah, we'll have you on the show again. Everyone have a great Tuesday. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, send me a connect request. Don't just hit the follow. Go one extra step, connect with Ainsley as well. And if you have suggestions for topics you'd like for us to cover on Healthcare Thought Leadership, please let us know. Thank you for checking in, everyone. Gina, Nifia, everybody that joined us today. I'm going to close it out. Have a great day.
All right. Have a good one.